our last debates, we have the Executive Vice President of Operations position, and we will be starting with Adriana. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Adriana Kemper. I am a freshman here at DePaul, and I'm running for EVP of Operations. At DePaul here, I'm studying environmental studies with a concentration in sustainability and a minor in economics.
All right, and then just go ahead on opening statement. Just keep going.
So I'm running for Executive Vice President of Operations. So you want me to state some of my initiatives or just some of my involvements?
Whatever you want. You have 90 seconds.
When here at DePaul, with operations, when I think of operations, I think of when I walk into a room, what do I feel and what do I want to feel? And that is, I want to feel safe. I want to feel like I'm at DePaul, and I want to feel like I'm contributing to the community. And either in sustainability, is our campus green? And in our values, how are we contributing to not only Chicago, but to the world with our values and spreading it out to the community and the DePaul area.
Okay, great.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lindsey Salter, also running for EVP for Operations. I'm a sophomore here at DePaul. I'm studying public policy with a concentration in environmental policy and peace, justice, and conflict studies. I'm running currently on a on a campaign platform called Vincentians United. And one of our main goals collectively is to increase transparency between operations of SGA and the administration with communities that are a part of DePaul. But personally, my main goal in the operations position is to increase political engagement and student affinity within DePaul. And I feel like in order to address the operations positions, I know I talk about that's a lot, but in order to address operations within DePaul, I think it's important for students to first understand what the scope of their political engagement is at DePaul and how they can go about getting their voices heard, how they can go about getting certain things addressed. And I want to be an avenue to help voice those issues with students.
Okay, great, thank you. Moving into our first set of questions, these will be on initiatives, and you'll have 1 minute each to answer them. First question will go to Lindsey. What initiative is the most important to you and your platform, and how will you enact these initiatives?
Sure. As I said, but kind of in my opening statement, my biggest initiative, and as Vincentians United, our biggest initiative is increasing political engagement. And that sounds so far out, but mostly I see us doing that through really engaging those avenues of camp student affinity, because one of our biggest goals the way we look at it at the DePaul community is that because a lot of students are considered non-traditional students in the sense that they have jobs outside of school, they commute to school. But one of our biggest things is that we see, though DePaul is seen as a commuter school, it doesn't have to be a commuter community. So our biggest initiatives are using SGA as a way to really engage in student organizations and increasing student organizations whole to students. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Adriana?
So when I think of my initiatives, I think the most important one, I think of what must be done here at DePaul and how can we make the students' lives prosper and what can we do after DePaul and what are we going to be learning here in education. So like I mentioned before, it's safety. How do we feel here at DePaul? As a DePaul, do we feel our identity? And also sustainability. Being an environmental studies sustainability major, I am so passionate about the environment and I want to make less of an impact as possible. And what can we do as Vincentians here to make this less of an impact? And I really think that incorporating more sustainable measures, just simple little things around the campus to advise the administration, what can we do to lower our carbon footprint and educate the students, because this is a university, we're here to learn. And learning about sustainability is something for the future and what we can do for future generations. And like I said, just little simple initiatives like making sure that the computers are off and more water bottle fill-up stations, bringing your own water, being an inspiration to others.
Great.
All right. And these next two questions will kind of be tailored towards each of you. So this one's going to be for you, Lindsey. In your student questionnaire, you listed that you had no prior experience with SGA. What are your thoughts on this lack of prior experience, and do you have any other experience in leadership roles in other capacities?
Sure. So I have never been on SGA before, and but I feel like, but I have been involved in other leadership positions. I'm a DCSA coordinator, DCSA being DePaul Community Service Organization, or Association, sorry. And I also worked with Community Peacemakers, which is another organization on campus. And I feel like they've given me the tools necessary to be able to reach communities and be in a position where I'm comfortable with communicating and getting engagement amongst students. They've given me so although I've never, and I feel like I can transfer those skills that I've learned to an SGA position. How much time do I have left?
15 seconds.
Okay. I guess I can elaborate on that a little bit later. But yeah.
Okay, great. Adriana, you currently are in an elected SGA position. What have you done in the past year? You can talk to initiatives, advocacy, et cetera, that qualify you to run for this current position.
So this past year being in student government, I really wanted to get to know my student body and know their concerns. So whenever I go to see someone, it's just talk to someone in the line, hey, how are you? How's your experience at DePaul? What do you like? What do you not like? And within my first month in student government, I made a little survey and just asked about hey, what are your favorite things about DePaul? What are your worst things? Do you attend these events? And how do you attend these events? How do you know about them? So just kind of get a general overview, what is my what are my constituents? And then I realized a lot of people are we want Chipotle in the stew. And I'm okay, so that was one of the issues. So I went to talk to James Lee at Chartwell's, and he's we can't do that, but we can possibly do some other things. And a lot of other students wanted scrambles open on the weekend. So that recently just opened here at the kitchen, and that was really exciting to see. And another issue with a lot of the students, freshman year students this year, was roommate situation. A lot of people didn't get the roommates that they wanted, or they're paired with roommates that they are not similar to. So I suggested it to the housing services about this issue, and they already had the problem, they understood the problem and had a different situation going on. But it was nice to know that I was able to advocate for my students.
Okay, great. Now we'll be moving into some specific questions on that relate to your position. You will again have a minute to answer each of these questions.
So for this question, we'll start with Adriana. So environmental concerns are on many students and administrators' minds, and I know you had mentioned this previously, but how do you plan to specifically enhance sustainability on campus?
So I think sustainability is a huge topic, and I'm going to kind of start off with what I define sustainability as. And I see that as meeting the needs of our current generation without jeopardizing future generations. So it's not only in regards to our carbon footprint, which we can easily reduce by using LED lightings in different areas instead of fluorescent, and just turning off computers that could really lessen our carbon footprint, or implementing more reuse of renewable energy. And then also showing students that education is important about this, and what are little steps that we can do in our daily lives that are going to make a bigger impact on this, and making it physical, so then students understand we are making a difference. We are Vincentians, we are making a difference. We can do this, and it's really it's great to see this and it's in fruition. So just being able to educate students about the things that they're able to do, and providing them that leeway to feel that pride about going green.
So then Lindsey, same question.
Sure. So recently I engaged in a nationwide conference that connected students talking about how to make their campuses specifically more sustainable. And one of the biggest things that students around the country are doing is addressing their administration with divestment, and talking about what are the companies and institutions that we're investing in that don't particularly have a sustainable practices and outlook. And I think the university has a huge impact, or can levy a huge impact on figuring out ways to be more sustainable in what we invest in. In addition to that, I think another part of sustainability in addressing sustainability on campus is that because we're a commuter school, a lot of students have traveled very far. And I think one of the biggest things that we could do is figure out ways to make it so housing closer to campus may be more affordable, just to not only create more community, but also to be more sustainable campus.
Okay, great. Next question, we'll start with Lindsey. According to some, relations between SGA and student organizations are not as good as they could be. How would you work to improve these relations?
I think one of the biggest things is making sure that minutes from every SGA meeting are published, not only just published, but distributed to all campus organizations, so that students have a very integral understanding of what is happening, what resolutions are on the table, and how they can go about engaging in those. Also, I think we should definitely have more student participation in SGA committees. So many students have so many ideas about what they would like to see their SGA doing for them. And I think one of the biggest ways that they can do that is being included in the thinking process of how to go about addressing the issues that students face.
Okay, great. Adriana, the same question.
So what was the question again? So I can.
According to some, relations between SGA and student organizations are not as good as they could be. How would you work to improve those relations?
So during this whole campaigning, we've been going out to many organizations and speaking to them. And I don't want to stop that. I've had so much fun seeing different faces and kind of being challenged, like, what are you doing for the school? And it's so inspiring to see like all these different organizations that I wouldn't have necessarily gone to like on my own time. And I want to keep doing that and going to organizations, because I realize that not everyone can make it to the meetings at 6 o'clock on Thursdays. And going to them and say, hey, I'm your advocate. Like, what are your concerns and what can we do about it? So them telling us, and I saw at another school, they had in their newspaper a student government section where they mentioned each organization that they went to that week, noted the concerns that were voiced at them, and then they also mentioned like transition steps to how that is being addressed and how they're fulfilling that concern. And I think that's a great way of also incorporating transparency into SGA as well, because transparency has been a big issue lately, and having a platform to put it on and like what we're doing and how we're addressing that would be very beneficial.
Great, thank you.
All right. Next question. I can't talk. Last debate. No, this question has to deal with nutrition, especially relating to on-campus dining. Many students have raised concerns on that topic. What will you do to work with Chartwells to address these student concerns regarding nutrition, labeling, those type of things? Adriana?
So I've already been speaking to James Lee about the nutrition facts. I know that there is a student group that brought forth up having issues with labeling, and they're already addressing that. It's going to take a little while. They have to deal with Chartwells, the business corporation, in order to label those correctly and make sure everything's accurate. However, I've been a vegetarian for 4 years, and I just recently went vegan, and I've been doing it for 3 weeks. It's very difficult. However, I understand how difficult it is. Like, what can I eat? What can I eat? Is there like products in this? Having that labeling would be very beneficial. And I think having more healthy options available to the students is a great way to, not only reduce our carbon footprint by realizing like, hey, this is grass-fed food, and then this is like not. And like, the salad bar options, those are healthy. And, giving more of those options to students, so then they have the choice to not get that freshman 15, because I totally know that has been horrible. But, having those students like to be able to have that healthy choice and really not have to pay as much for it too.
Okay. Lindsey?
So an idea that I had would be, well, actually it stems from, I was an orientation leader last year over the summer, and one of the biggest, one of the concerns that I would get from freshmen and incoming students was like, how do I go about understanding what is in my food? And a lot of times, well, we were told that we'd have to direct the student to Chartwells, and they would have to specifically go have a meeting with Chartwells to figure out what they can and cannot eat. And I feel like that should not be a responsibility on the student. We have enough to deal with being on the quarter system and things. So in addition to being transparent about what is in our food, I think one way that we could go about that is if Chartwells had like specific menus, like they can like get a board that's like next to, I don't know, Sizzle or whatever other stations that are in the student center, and they can list out exactly what food that they're providing, and like where where it may come from, if they're soy or other dietary restrictions. There are people with dietary restrictions can have an upfront understanding of like, okay, so on the menu, this is what is in this is what's being served today, and this is what's in this food. So I know exactly what I can and cannot eat.
All right, thank you. Now we'll be moving on to some questions about transparency. You'll have 30 seconds to answer each of these.
All right. What is your stance on secret ballots? We've seen those be used quite a bit in the past few years, and there's some concerns about just transparency with students not knowing how their elected officials vote. So what's your stance on that? And we'll begin with Lindsey.
Sure. Personally, I'm very much against the idea of secret ballots, because if you're electing an official to represent your group or whoever, or your stance, even just as a student, you should have the ability to know exactly how your student government is voting. And it goes back to the idea of, well, if we wouldn't have secret ballots in the first place if we didn't feel like we needed something to protect. Like there shouldn't be, and that goes back into the disengagement between the SGA and the student body. And I feel like there shouldn't have to be a secret about what your SGA is doing. And I feel like that mindset needs to be eradicated.
Adriana?
So I think that secret ballots, like having been involved with SGA the past year, it really deals with like the climate within the room itself. You don't want this, because student government members are students too, and I want everyone to be able to feel safe, whether they're voting or whether they're just walking around on campus. And being able, like in that room, if people are pressuring you into voting a certain way and you really believe that it shouldn't be that, you don't want someone to come up to you afterwards and say like, why'd you vote this way? When really, like, it's your decision. Like, how do you think it's going to affect the DePaul student body the best? So I really think that it's a discussion that should be addressed at the beginning of the new DePaul SGA for next year, and it'd be a collective decision.
So our next question, we'll start with Adriana. What is your stance on publishing meeting minutes?
Meeting minutes? I honestly think that it would be a great idea. We'd have to speak with whoever is in cabinet next year and see like what is the feasibility behind that, because our meetings are open to the public. Anyone can go to it. So there's not any secrets behind what's going on. It's just how are we going to get there, and like what are the steps that we should be taking, because anyone is available to come like listen to the meetings and understand what's going on.
In addressing minutes, I think SGA can do even more than just publishing minutes. And I think I had an idea of maybe we can have a short clip of like someone talking about exactly the points that were addressed in SGA, just to make it so that it's easier for students to be engaged and understanding of what is happening, because I don't always have the time to read through exactly what happened if it's like more than like a ridiculous amount of pages. So I think in doing that also, I just lost my train of thought, but I think that would be, it's really important for students in a way to get them more engaged, because sometimes the SGA meetings are in rooms that are too small to accommodate a lot of students, or as we said before, the time of meetings aren't always convenient for students.
Okay, great. Now we'll be moving on to our questions that were submitted by students. Our first question is from Michael Boswell. How do you view the university administration? Would they be your partner, your superior, your adversary? What sort of relationship do you envision having with senior administrators? Lindsey?
Sure. I think we should be thinking about our senior administration as a really truly working relationship. A lot of students are paying out of pocket to be at this university, and it is in no way cheap to be here. So I think the relationship between students and administration should be very defined and a good bond. And it doesn't have to just be a partnership. Like, we don't always have to agree with the administration, but I think it's important for students to feel like they're being heard, because we are paying so much to be here and we're part of this DePaul community. So our initiatives, our concerns and needs should be reflected and be able to be communicated to the administration.
Great. Adriana?
I just want to say, I think that the administration is here for us, because without us, they wouldn't be here, they wouldn't have jobs, and I think they really enjoy their jobs and enjoy what they're doing. Every time I go talk to someone, say at DePaul Central, it seems like they really enjoy what they're doing, and like they love the DePaul community, and I think that's the same with like the higher administration too. They're here for us and they want to do as much as we can. And I think that having the strong relationship to, build our relationship with the administration and continue working with them, so then they know what an actual student concern is and what can they do to make students want to come to DePaul, and after leaving DePaul, like be super proud that they came here and like love their degree and like brag to their friends like, yeah, I went to DePaul University, it's the best, and just really have that demon pride. And I think that's really with that strong relationship, so that both of us, like both students and the administration, can build that and make the best DePaul ever.
The student question comes from Kennedy Carlson. DePaul University is named after St. Vincent de Paul, and as an institution follows the Vincentian tradition. What does being Vincentian mean to you, and if elected, how will you utilize the Vincentian tradition during your presidency? And we can start with Adriana.
So I really love the Vincentian mission. I never heard about it before I came to DePaul. And during my orientation, they told us about how St. Vincent, how DePaul gave back to the Chicago community, its foundings. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so inspirational. I go to this school and none of my friends are able to say the same thing. So that really made me look about what is this Vincentian mission? And I started researching more about it, and it's what must be done? What can we do as students? What can we do as a collective body of people as well? And that really has impacted me. And then the whole sustainability aspect behind it as well, which I'm super really passionate about. What can we do to sustain our green carbon footprint and our green image on campus? And also, what can we do to give back to the community? We are able to go to this great institution, get a great education here. And how can we provide this for other people in the Chicago community as well? How can we go out and be service to others who aren't as fortunate as us to go to this? And what can we do as DePaul students to fulfill this Vincentian mission?
Great. In terms of the Vincentian mission was the reason that I came to DePaul. I think in order to first begin addressing what must be done, it must be, the students as a collective body must be able to come together in some ways. And I feel because as I said before, DePaul is mostly a commuter school, but it doesn't have to be a commuter community. And I think that in order to address what must be done, we must be able to come together and have avenues of communications and connection in order to start addressing the social issues that Chicago as a collective city may be dealing with, and the other issues on campus that we may be dealing with, because the Black Student Union and other movements, Black Lives Matter and the women's movement, the LGBTQ communities, and all of the other communities there's so many different diverse communities that make up DePaul, and I feel the Vincentian mission is what pulls us together and what can have the potential to pull us together to be able to speak as a collective student body.
Absolutely. Perfect segue into our next question. This student question comes from Rajane Redmond, who's the president of Strong, which is an organization, women of color on campus. And she asks, what will you do to make student culture at DePaul more inclusive for students of color? This does not mean carving out groups or organizations for minorities to establish communities, but an integration of students of color with the majority. How will you make DePaul comfortable? Lindsey?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is one of my personal biggest initiatives, and the reason why I want to be on DePaul, on SGA, because when I first came to DePaul, it was very difficult for me as a woman of color to find my community, to find my other outreach, and have them being represented with the majority of other organizations at DePaul. And I feel in order to begin addressing those things, we need to be able to establish better communication between SGA, the administration, and communities of color, and communities all around DePaul, but specifically of minority communities, because oftentimes when that communication and misrepresentation occurs, then it just is snowballs into all of these different, I'm not feeling like I'm represented on campus, and then I feel like I have no way of being represented. So I think it should be an integral part of SGA next year to address minority populations and make sure that they are being represented and pulled into this majority.
Adriana?
I think it's very important for each organization and each we go to such a diverse school, and I think everyone needs to have their own voice, like within student government and within like just DePaul in general. And I think a very beneficial way to keep fostering this diverse population is to have roundtables and just bring like a bunch of student organizations together and make sure that like everyone is being represented and you're able to like talk to them and say, hey, what are your concerns? Like what's going on here? Hey, how was your day? Making like everything a friendship. Like we go to college, we come here for the experience, and like I want to meet more people and learn more about like where you came from and how you grew up and like what struggles that you had, what struggles that I had. How can we become friends and learn more about each other? How can we learn about the world? Because diversity comes in so many different ways. And we go to this awesome Chicago school, which not only has students from all across the United States, but it's also international, and so many different ideas and thoughts, and getting around and just talking to each other and learning about everything is just could be very beneficial.
Great. And then this will be our final question before closing statements. How do you plan to help incorporate students living off campus into students living on campus? Again.
So when I think of like off campus onto in campus, but when you're on campus, you want to walk into this campus, walk into the quad for us to say, do I feel like I'm at DePaul? And when you think that, where do you think you are? I feel like I'm on a college campus, but how can we enhance that more? How can I see more blue to actually feel that blue demon pride that I have within myself? See just more blue going everywhere and really going into the classrooms and understanding like, hey, I go here at DePaul. I'm proud to be at DePaul. When I walk into the SAC, for instance, or other buildings, like how do I feel like I'm at DePaul here and really feel that unity? How easily is it for me to get involved in other organizations? Am I going to be able to accommodate with this? Or do I have friends in something like this? How can I meet new people? And I think that especially working closely with Patrick and like the rest of the cabinet, like some of our big initiatives are like campus collaboration, like getting different events to host stuff. Because I always have a lot of fun when I see stuff on the quad. I'm always like snooping around, like, hey, what's going on here? Like, how are you guys doing? Like, I think that's really cool. And implementing more like quad activities or in-campus activities to really get students talking to each other and getting to know each other and all the different perspectives that are going on can really make it feel like a DePaul community.
Okay, Lindsey, same question.
Sure. So one of the biggest things I was thinking of is that speaking from as a commuter student, recently I moved off of campus, and I feel like, and a lot of my friends live off campus, and I feel like in order to create a better community, in order to create a more connected community, I think DePaul can do more, and SGA can do more with creating avenues of that it's more accommodating for students that don't live on campus, that have multiple jobs, and because those don't have to be deterrents for not being engaged on campus. And I feel like SGA can do a lot with creating avenues of helping students find close campus or affordable housing closer to campus, helping students navigate avenues of connecting if they're working a lot and they want to be engaged in some way. And I feel like DePaul has a very unique opportunity to create and foster accommodation for students, because we're mostly like a non-traditional type of campus.
Okay, great. And moving to closing statements.
Lindsey's going first.
Yes, Lindsey. Okay, closing statements. 30 seconds. Closing statements.
Sure. So I'm running with Vincentians United, and we at the end of the day, we believe that we can serve the students by being a representative voice for the students. We feel like we offer more avenues and more diverse avenues of being able to represent student voices, because we have so many different reaches, and we have so many diverse qualifications that make us not only a collective Vincentian United platform, but also as individuals with a lot of strengths that help us contribute to connecting with students, and because we're made up of so many different populations here at DePaul.
Okay, thank you. Adriana.
I just want to start that I love DePaul. This is my first year here, and I already bleed blue. Like, this is just the best university like I could have ever thought of. All my friends are like, you're just so preppy, and like you love the school too much. I'm like, no, that's impossible. This is great. And I just really want to, like, other people that don't have this, I want to know why they don't feel this way too, because we do go to a great institution. We have great opportunities after, and we do have the ability to get great internships for after we graduate, have something to do with our with our degree. And as a EVP of Operations, I think I want to really get to know the students and do on anything that I can to really foster this Blue Demon environment and really enjoy our time here at DePaul.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Great. And just a reminder to viewers, SGA elections are coming up this week. You can start voting Monday.
We encourage everyone to vote.
Get out there and vote.